Okay, now that we've made our purchases, we need to compile our total costs. In order to do that, we're going to use Microsoft Excel. So here we have the document that we compiled all of our costs in originally with these screenshots as we saw in the previous video. So now we're going to use Excel in a spreadsheet in order to record those costs. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to list these side by side, or show these side by side so that we can easily see both. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make my spreadsheet. We can click in a cell where we want to type some text and simply type in what we want. So I'm going to make some column headings. First of all, we could call this the hardware component. Okay. And the second column, we could make details. And finally, price. Okay. Now I'm going to select these and make these columns a little bit wider. The price doesn't have to quite be that wide. So now what we're going to do, we can format this a little bit more later, but we'll look at each one of these, and our first one is a hardware, a hard drive that we purchased from Tiger Direct. So, which reminds me, we should put in a column here where we purchased it from. Okay, so this is from tigerdirect.com, and it is our hard drive. Okay, and the details here, you're going to want to put the brand, and if it has a name, for instance, this one is called the Seagate Barracuda. Okay. Also, since this is a hard drive, the primary thing that we're looking at is how big it is. Okay, so we're going to list it. It's 1 terabyte. You could also, for the hard drive, since this does impact speed, this is a magnetic storage, not a solid state drive, so it does have the platters, and therefore we have RPMs that we need to consider that do impact speed. Now 7200 is pretty standard speed, but so maybe you could list it if it were something faster than this that you purchased specifically for that reason. I'll go ahead and list it just since we have it here. Now we're also going to put in the price, and this was $92.28. Make sure again that you put the total price, not just the purchase price. Okay? So now I'm done with this, and I'm going to maximize our spreadsheet, and I would continue to list the rest of my components. For instance, obviously we have to buy a case, we have to buy a motherboard, and possibly a motherboard and a CPU combo. We'd have to get our optical drive, so maybe I got a DVD ROM, and so forth. You get the idea. You would list each of those, the details for each of those, where you bought each of those from, and then the price. So I'm going to just punch in some prices here. You know, let's say you spent $85 on your case, your motherboard and CPU were a total of, oh, I don't know, $225, maybe on our budget $200. The DVD-ROM you picked up for $80. Now you'll notice I put in dollar signs here. One thing you could do is select them and just choose to format them as money, and what that'll do is it'll put the decimal points in for you, put the money in for you. And also, one of the main purposes of this video is to show how to use the sum formula to calculate the total. This is going to be our total cost right here. And this is really where we know whether or not we stayed within our budget. Now, we want to make sure that we use a formula for this, not just adding it up on our own, because if we end up over budget, we're going to have to go back and change one of these. And by using a formula, it'll automatically recalculate the total. So, there are a couple ways to do this. One is to use the sum function. Now in Excel, anytime you use a function, you have to hit equals first, and then we're going to type in sum and open up some parentheses, and then you can simply click and drag over the things that you want to add up. You close your parentheses and hit enter, and that gives us a total. So far we spent $457.28. Okay? Now, there is a little bit faster way of doing this, and that is with the auto sum. It kind of intuitively looks up and checks to see what you want to add up, and once you confirm that that's correct, you can just hit enter. Notice it's giving us the same thing that we just typed in, but we would hit enter at this point and it gives us the same total. So then you would, once this is all complete, you'll save this, upload it to the Dropbox, and this portion of the project will be done.